Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Herefordshire Council meeting today. I want to begin by formally introducing our Director of Finance. As you know, our Chief Executive, unfortunately, his wife is undergoing an operation today, so he is not with us, but we do have the Director of Finance here in his place, so we very much welcome Rachel to this meeting. Since our last meeting, I would ask you to note the passing of Councillor Fleet, who was a former member of this council. He was also a member of the City Council and former mayor of the city. And also the passing of Mark Yates, who was the former chief of the fire service in Hereford and Worcester and was the current chair of the Health and Care Partnership Board for Hereford and Worcester. So we're very sad to note that. We have apologies from Councillor Stone today, but I do want to pay tribute to the fact that he was recently awarded the Order of St Ethelbert in the Cathedral, which I think is a very great personal achievement to him, so congratulations to him. And you know, we have all these announcements, which are usually quite serious and sad, but I'm very pleased to also welcome Councillor Dan Powell, of course, that since the last election, the last council meeting, he, of course, was... Where's Dan? Can't see him. There you are, Dan. You were hiding behind Ivan, yes. Who, of course, has got married. And it's such a pleasure to have one of us that's... Well, we're all young enough, I suppose, to get married, but you know what I mean. They were married in Cyprus. 38 degrees it was, so there we are. I don't know why you went there. You could have almost done that in Herefordshire during most of the summer. But congratulations, Dan. As I said, it's nice to have that. Very well. I will now move on for the meeting itself. So apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillors Bartram, Crockett, Dykes, Highfield, Swindlehurst, Stone and Bramer. Are there any more? I don't think so. Very well, thank you. Declarations of interest. Councillor Durkin, I think you have a declaration to declare.
Thank you, Chairman. I declare an interest in one of the motions as I am on the PCC panel.
Thank you, that's noted. Any other Yes, Councillor Hitchener.
Chair, in the event the SLR is mentioned, I declare my interest having a property in that area, which I have a dispensation for some time. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, I'm also on the Police and Crime panel, but I'm appointed by this council to sit there and don't think I have anything to declare.
Monitoring Officer.
You do need to declare the fact, but you are entitled to take part in the debate and to vote.
Okay, so no other declarations. Let's move on then to agenda item 3, minutes, on pages 11 to 30. There is an amendment to the minutes on page 15. That motion was proposed by Councillor Driscoll and seconded by Councillor James. So with that amendment, are you content for those minutes to be agreed? Thank you. Those are unanimous. We then go on to agenda item 4, which is the Chairman and Chief Executive's announcements. They are there for you to record. I have nothing to add, and I don't think there's anything else that the Chief Executive wishes to add as well. Thank you. We'll move on then to agenda item 5, which is questions from members of the public. The first question was from Mr. Osborne Brooks regarding bypass costs. I'll turn to the Cabinet Member, Councillor Price.
I need to read it.
Oh, sorry, yes, you'll read the supplementary.
Thank you, Chairman. The supplementary question from Mr. Osborne Brooks is, thank you for your response to my question. In the response, the councillor says, the council's commitment to capital borrowing to support phase 1 will help make the case for investment to government, and the impact of this on the council's revenue budget position is minimal. However, in a previous letter to the government, the council's leader said, phase 1 construction is set to be funded through prudential borrowing, which will significantly impact our revenue budget. Could you please clarify which one of these statements is true and why there seems to be a complete difference in judgment as to the impact on the council's revenue budget by the borrowing between the councillors? Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Osborne Brooks, for your supplementary question. Both of these statements are in fact true. The impact of the prudential borrowing required to fund phase 1 of the bypass, as previously reported, is 0.25 million in 26-27, rising to 1.5 million per annum from 28-29. 0.25 million represents 0.1% of the council's estimated net revenue budget for 26-27, and 1.5 million is 0.5% of the estimated net revenue budget for 28-29, and therefore the impact of this individual project on the council's total revenue is minimal. The letter sent to central government by the leader highlights the council's overall financial position and the impact of the fair funding review on future funding allocations. In this context, and in consideration of the council's wider financial position, the collective impact of prudential borrowing is significant. Work to develop in 26-27 budget, capital programme and medium-term financial strategy is currently underway, and the impact of the fair funding review and requirements of the capital programme will inform our financial plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Martin? Is she in person to come down to ask you a supplementary, please?
Morning, everybody. My question's also about funding of the SLR. I've read Councillor Lester's letter to Heidi Alexander. If the DFT don't come up with a shortfall for funding this road, which we know is going to run into tens of millions, will the shortfall be met by additional borrowing, whatever the impact on council finances and services, and whatever the burden on local taxpayers?
Thank you. Councillor Price.
At this point in time, we are requesting of government for support in the funding for the whole of the bypass. We are building the business case, and we shall have a business case suitable to present to them by July of next year. That business case will then be considered in context of what the government response is to us and what we then do to fund it. And at that point, we should have a better estimate of what the costs will be, and therefore how we're going to fund it. At this moment, until we have a new bill of quantities for the expected cost of delivering it, the finances are requests with government, and we will see what their response is. So to answer your question, I hope that is a satisfactory answer. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes questions from members of the public. Item 6 is questions from members of council. There have been no submitted questions from members of council. We'll now move on to agenda item 7, which is the electoral review, which is currently taking place, and the proposal for the number of councillors per ward. Just to remind you that this is a very narrow subject that we are dealing with here, and it is basically to inform the electoral review about our position with regard to multi-member wards or single-member wards, and that's all the debate is about, and the recommendation that's put forward. I will call upon the leader to propose, and then I will turn to Councillor Harvey to second. Leader.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to all councillors who've given this matter some consideration. Getting the number of councillors right and the electoral system is right is absolutely imperative for local democracy. This process is always going to be subject to a boundary review, and that's a natural, healthy process. The timing of it we questioned because of the trying to fathom out the proportion of population shift in various areas and the predicted population shifts that might arise due to new housing development. But that said, there's never a good time for these things, so we might as well get on and do it. I was first elected as a Herefordshire councillor in 2011, and I think Councillor Harvey, you were as well. And we remember the old system where you had more than one councillor per ward. And whilst that did have some benefits, I think what it tended to do was confuse the electorate as to who their political representative was. And it led to duplication at some times and then confusion at others. So I think having one member per ward is a really crystal clear way of allowing members of the public to engage with the political system at local democracy, and it also gives the ward councillor that opportunity to build that relationship with all of the ward, so that if you had more than one member, then things could get more complicated. So for the purposes of clarity and the purposes of making sure that democracy is as simple as it can be in terms of ensuring good representation, I think one member, one ward per ward should be the way to go, and I'm happy to propose the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Lester. Councillor Harvey, I'm not inclined to think there's many to speak. Do you want to speak now or later on? But perhaps. I'll do it now. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, I was also elected in 2011. I guess, you know, if I'd killed someone, I'd be out by now. But I'm still here. I think I'm right in saying I'm the only member in the chamber today who has had to canvass a triple member ward.
Well, settle down. Yes.
Then I
yeah.
stand corrected. It's a really tough task when you stand in a ward that covers more than a single member. And although I did see benefits in multi-member wards if everybody works together and plays nicely, you can burden share and members of the public can approach whichever ward member they feel most sympathetic with and towards. However, it does sometimes mean that everybody comes to one councillor and they get a really heavy burden of ward work, as well as we all know the responsibilities that we carry for committee work at county level. So I'm on balance supportive of continuing the system that we have at the present, which is one member to one ward, and I'm very happy to second this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I have Councillor Baker and Councillor Andrews, and I don't think I have anyone else, and then I'll go to the vote. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. I was first elected as a councillor in the London Borough of Hillingdon back in 2002. All wards in the borough at that time were bar one of them, were three-member wards. This was okay in my ward as it covered Eastcote and parts of Ruislip, which was an extremely safe seat. They didn't count our votes in those days; they weighed them. But three members from the same party covering a ward was useful at times, as we could share the workload. But it also meant that lazy members were able to have an easy time. This wasn't always the case elsewhere in the borough, as a couple of wards had three members from three different parties, and others had two from one party and one from another. This led to confusion, with party political arguments being fought at local residents' association meetings. And we didn't have parish councils in those days, it was just residents' associations. But it was bad for everyone, especially the residents, as occasionally arguments would spread to the audience, with some people taking sides depending on their party colours. With a change to multiple member wards in Herefordshire, we could end up with almost 160 elected members. All the wards would have to be increased in size, which would make some rural wards completely unmanageable, and the operational costs would be prohibitive. Needless to say, I won't be supporting any changes to our single member system. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Chair. Well, if we're saying how long we've been here, I've been a councillor since 1996. First elected on what was then the Hereford City Council, which was then a district council. But I too have experienced three-member wards. It's difficult when it's your own group. It is virtually impossible if it's if you're other members of a different group. As has already been said, it leads to confusion with the electorate, or else they'll try all three to see if they can get a different answer. It really isn't a workable solution, so I'm happy to support the existing system, one member per ward, even though I realise that some of the rural wards are quite large in area, if not in numbers.
Thank you. I've got no one else. We'll move to the vote. Can I remind you that in order to retain our recommendation of one member per ward electoral arrangements, a vote of a 2/3 majority is required. Let's move to the vote. So the proposal is, as outlaid, that we retain single member per ward. All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Is it? Right. So, anyone opposing against? Abstained? 1. So yes, that has been carried, and our recommendation is that there should be one member per ward to the Electoral Commission. Thank you for that. It's now 17 minutes past 10. You know that we have an hour for the leaders' report, so that'll be approximately an hour then, and then we'll have a break before we go into the motions as I've outlined to you. I shall now call upon the leader to present his report, and when he has given a brief introduction, we will then begin on pages 47 and go through the report. Leader.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just to say, it's been a very busy time. The Council, Cabinet and officers are working very, very hard, and you have before you the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. He's obviously listening to me today. Right, let's begin. The report begins on page 47 and 48, which is on general issues. Are there any particular issues on those items? If not, Councillor Kenyon and Councillor Hitchener. Councillor Kenyon first. Anybody else on those pages? If there's nobody else on those pages, then Councillor Kenyon and Councillor Hitchener.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm a little confused. I'm desperately trying to go through to find out what page it's on. I need to get this in. So if I've gone off on a tangent on the wrong page, do forgive me, but I do want to make a point, and perhaps you can refer it to the page when we get to it. This is to do with the medium strategy. Am I around about the right place now? Can I speak about this? Medium-term strategy, savings? No? 48. So I'm a page ahead. Do you want me to carry on or stop for a moment?
As you started, I'll let you finish.
I've started, so I've finished. Okay.
Yep.
This is to do with the projected... we're not got enough cash coming in. 27 million we're going to be short next year. Now, we've identified something. That's schools, getting children to school, including SENS, costs around 14 million a year. And nearly 6 million that is spent on taxes. And I want to put the taxis on notice, because they've been charging up to 4 times what you'd pay on the meter to get our children to school. They've had it too good for too long, and it's ripping off. I mean, if residents can't get taxis because they're living off the fat of the land is the taxpayers' money. They'll do school runs, and that's it. That's all they do all week. So it's disingenuous to the rest of the residents. This has been identified by this administration. I'm very pleased, but I also got to thank an army veteran who had the courage to speak out and the strength to continue speaking out. And the investigation has been carried out by this council, and they've realised this has been going on for far too long. Now I'm pleased that we're finally doing something about it, but we're not doing enough, and we're not doing it quick enough. And my question, I'm getting to it. What are you going to do to resolve it? I got there, didn't I? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Hitchener.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've got a number of questions relating to the letter which was sent to the Secretary of State. I don't know whether the member of the public is satisfied with the response from Councillor Price, but the wording of the letter from the leader said, Phase 1 construction is set to be funded through prudential borrowing, which will significantly impact our revenue budget. That's, to me, is a clear statement that it is saying that this particular project will impact our revenue budget significantly. My second observation relates to a statement in this letter which says that the project is supported by a robust business case with a strong cost-benefit ratio meeting departmental standards. We've already heard Councillor Price mention that this business case is not to be available until next year. So what is the leader doing? Making these statements to the government saying there is a robust business case. If there is one, could I please see it, and could it be shared with all members and the public? Thank you.
Thank you. Leader?
Thank you very much. Firstly, thank you, Councillor Kenyon. With regard to the Send Transport and the taxis fulfilling that function for us, to see in the context of the fact that since 2020, we've seen a 20% increase nationally of the requirement to make sure that children are transported to their education provision, and so we've seen an upsurge, and this is a classic example of where the council has to react to increased demand. We see that in adult services, but we're seeing it clearly here in provision for making sure children get to their education. So it's an increasing problem, and because of the increase of the problem, and because we're having to look about all of the things that we're funding, we have a strategy that we're developing to ensure that there are reduced costs and a better way, a more efficient way of making sure those vulnerable children get to the education they need. But I have to say it's an extremely complex picture, and it's not a question of just going in there and having a quick fix. And a good example of that is that there's work being done to approach families to ensure that they're happy with the arrangements where we can share taxis, change routes, change schedules, all of that, but that needs detailed negotiation with individuals rather than a carte blanche approach. Also, we have to be very careful about the fact that there is a taxi provision out there, but we need to work with them, because what we don't want to happen is to have a situation where that capacity dries up or is not viable. So it is de-escalating the costs, and making sure that things are more efficient. But by doing that, with working with taxi operators, working with the families, whilst at the same time making sure that it's critical that the children's education needs are not being impacted in any negative way. So the costs are extremely high. It's £7 million, not £6, and school transport funding in total is £13 million. So these are large sums. So we have to address this, but this is the type of initiative that we're doing with regard, and in the same way that we're doing with all kind of funding that we have, funding pressures that we have, and we'll have to take action towards, because as we will continually say, there is the issue of the funding gap that we must address. So can I just assure Councillor Kenyon, there is a strategy. Negotiations are going on with taxi companies to reduce costs, but it's not something you can just suddenly flick a switch and fix overnight. But I can assure you that we will continue to go at this at pace to ensure that we're reducing the costs. Thank you.
Councillor Hitchener's question.
Yes, thank you. Well, the question's been answered, and in the wider context, there are huge pressures on the council, especially with regard to the funding gap. But the cold-hearted answer to the question, the ratio between the impact of one project, that's what was reflected in Councillor Price's answer. But I really believe that the matter has been answered, and there is a robust defence for the Western Corridor. We've had this debate constantly over the years. It makes perfect sense when you think about it being the backbone of future development for Herefordshire, whilst at the same time addressing the congestion, the problems that we have. We have huge congestion issues. You know, just only over the last month or so, residents have been extremely patient with works that have had to have gone on, gas works that have had to have gone on in Aylstone Hill. Classic example of where congestion is a big problem, and anything that interrupts that really does create big problems. So the logic of having such road infrastructure for the future of Herefordshire is sound, and we will continue to point that out categorically as we go through the process.
Thank you. Now I'm on page 50 in the papers, colleagues, and we're beginning with under the theme of people. So the first one I have is the Alternative Provision Procurement Framework on there. I'm not seeing anyone indicating, and now I'm moving on to the Domestic Abuse Strategy. Councillor Oliver, anybody else on this particular item as well on the Council Domestic Abuse Strategy? Just Councillor Oliver. Councillor Oliver.
Oh, sorry. First of all, I would question the title Domestic Abuse Strategy, which implies that we're looking at ways of improving people's ability to abuse domestically. Surely it ought to be prevention, strategy for the prevention of domestic abuse. But I'm not quite sure what our strategy is to actually help to prevent it. We're talking about support, but is there any way we can educate, against this misogynistic tendencies of males, to provide this domestic use and control? How do we get out of this constant? It never seems to decrease. The number of women killed by their partners stays the same every year.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Leader?
Thank you very much. I can remember being in scrutiny saying we shouldn't have a gambling strategy. We should have a strategy for the control of gambling, and I think this is a similar point, isn't it? It should be a strategy for the reduction of domestic abuse, but I think what you'll find is this is the way it's referred to in national legislation. But I mean, if you think that Herefordshire should be different and we should badge it in a way that that makes it absolutely clear that it's not a strategy, we can put that to the Health and Wellbeing Board and the members. Councillor Gandhi, did you want to add anything to that? Sorry.
Only that this went to a political group consultation, and if the councillor concerned was at that consultation, it would have been really helpful to have made those comments there. If he wasn't at that consultation, then I suspect he wasn't really interested in actually the strategy at all.
Okay, but with regard to the main point that you make, Councillor Aubrey, it's critical to have.
Leader, have you finished?
I don't know, has Councillor James finished?
Yeah, he has.
Okay, right. So it is really important to have a strategy, and in this strategy there's an action plan. So that includes specific tasks to promote, publicise and provide regular communication targeted at raising awareness and signposting people to the services who, especially those who are victims of domestic abuse. That's what the strategy is there for. That's what the council, our officers and all our partners should be ensuring that we are doing, because as you quite rightly say, it's vulnerable people, and it's not just women, but it's vulnerable people are abused by people they know, and quite often they're trapped in that cycle, and they need that help and support to get that so that they don't have to continually put themselves in that situation where they're suffering domestic abuse. The problems are complex, but we must make sure that we've got that strategy and help there, and anything we can do collectively as a council, all 53 of us, of promoting this strategy, whatever we end up calling it, is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now on page 51 and on the Children and Young Persons Improvement Plan. Councillor Fagan, Councillor Corthwaite, Councillor Stark. So I'll go to Councillor Fagan first. Councillor.
Thank you. Leader, every councillor has on their desk a flyer about the early help in the community roadshow. Now, Children's Scrutiny has looked at early help twice in the last couple of years and has decided to do a deep dive into what early help looks like in Herefordshire. Would you sort of join me in encouraging councillors, both as corporate parents and as those responsible for the well-being of families in their wards, to participate in this community roadshow, the first of which is on Monday the 13th of October in Ross-on-Wye, followed by the following Monday at the Kindle Centre, and on Wednesday the 3rd of December in Leominster, as an important part of the improvement journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Corthwaite.
Yeah, it's no question, Chair. It is simply the fact that I joined Children's Scrutiny about a year ago, and I'd love to congratulate the Chair of Children's Scrutiny, which is Tony Fagan, for the way she operates Children's Scrutiny. I'm also a member of the Corporate Parenting Board, and I want to give sincere thanks to Councillor Ivan Powell for the way that he chairs that meeting, and also to our Director of Children's Services, because she's worked tirelessly. And if you're a witness to those meetings, particularly of Corporate Parenting Board, where we receive the reports of all the different people that work for the council with regard to children's services, it's an absolute joy to hear their enthusiasm. And I just wanted to sort of echo what the leader's saying about children's services at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Stark.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, we are all pleased to see the overall improvement in children's services, but I'm not sure what the experiences are of councillors across the council in terms of cases still crossing their desk, in terms of families that are still feeling let down by children's services. My question to the leader is, do we have any statistics to show the level of discontent that still is out there with the number of cases that are not actually finding the families happy with the level of children's services provision? Thank you.
Thank you. Leader?
Thank you for those questions and for those kind comments of our colleagues. Yes, firstly, the Early Help Roadshow is a brilliant initiative. I mean, we've got one in Ross, then there's going to be one in Hereford, then there's going to be one in Leominster. So that's really well placed, because all councillors are able to get to those, whether you're in the north of whether you're in the north of the county or the south of the county or the centre. They're really good locations. This is really good for the Task and Finish group to focus on, but I would encourage all councillors, if it's at all possible with your diaries, to attend one of these events, so you can really use it as an opportunity to meet our staff and colleagues and partners who are really focused on providing early help, which is the right way of addressing issues that families have to address. So thank you, Councillor Fagan, for plugging the venues. Yes, it's next Monday, 17th of November, and Wednesday, the 3rd of December. And yes, we have regular updates as a cabinet, and we had an update yesterday about the progress of children's services, and our director gave us lots of positives about how improvements have been made and are being made, and that was great to see. Pay tribute to Councillor Powell, who's really got a grip on all of these issues, and we're very lucky to have him in post, totally to get dedicated to the role, and this has helped considerably in making sure that we're on the right path to improvement. With regard to Councillor Stark's point, one of the things that we do in preparation for Ofsted or any inspection is to know how we're doing, and we audit our cases. There are regular audits about how well we're doing with helping our families, and in that audit process is feedback from families, bearing in mind these are families where they've had to have some form of intervention. And I will provide you, it's been in the handouts, it's been in the presentations that have been provided for members, but I will make sure that everybody has got the last presentations where it clearly demonstrates that families are welcoming intervention. The overwhelming majority are welcoming intervention. They know why there is intervention happening, and this is a very positive look at how the service has improved. Not everybody wants intervention, but at the end of the day, we're in the business of protecting children. But when we consider how far we've come in such a relatively short space of time, the feedback we're getting is very encouraging, and we're getting the outcomes that we want. Thank you.
Now, I have Councillor Kenyon, I think, wants to ask a question. Is there anybody else on this topic before I close this topic? Okay, Councillor Kenyon.
Thank you, Chairman. I also sit on the Corporate Parenting Board, and it is going well. And it's one of those meetings. You go to a lot of meetings, and you don't want to be in them. You really don't want to be in them. That one I look forward to, because the positivity around the room, what's being said, and actually what's being done behind what's being said actually happens. And yeah, Ivan does a great job there. There's always a flip side and that sort of stuff. Just want to invite anyone along. I'm going to a Family Alliance for Change, which is at the Kindle Centre in the morning. Okay. And it's a conference tackling crisis for children in social care. Now, I'm going along to listen to their concerns. It is about Herefordshire specific. Listen to their concerns and feed them back in and see where we go. So I welcome any other councillors that wants to go along and listen. Now, it's not taken away from the great work that's being done, because I feel the work is being done, but we always have to listen to all sides and learn from them too. So I look forward to seeing any councillor there tomorrow at the Kindle Centre. It starts at 10 a.m. and it's finished by 1. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there was a question there. It's just for members to note. So thank you for that. A very important subject, and I think we all take our responsibility as corporate parents and our responsibility with regard to children's services. I'm moving on now to page 52, and I'm on growth, and I'm on the Merton Meadows flood alleviation. I've not, yes, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Oliver. Councillor Harvey.
Sorry, Chair, I was just wanting to make a correction. The event at the Kindle Centre for families is on the 25th of October, not tomorrow.
Well, thank you for that. Right, Councillor Oliver, and we're on the flood alleviation, and I have no other questions on this, just Councillor Oliver's. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. I note that we're spending 800,000 of the grant on required site investigation and design works in the ground to build anything. At £800,000, if the contractor charges out his labour at £200 an hour, that would mean that he's charging for 400,000 hours on design and investigation. It seems somewhat excessive, and would it not be cheaper for the council to be employing 2 professionals at 50,000 an hour over the years that are able to do these site investigations and design?
Thank you. Leader?
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's not paying one person exorbitant amounts per hour. This is a whole team that we're employing to do, contracting to make sure that these works are carried out. The site investigation and the design works are complex pieces of work. This is the cost of development, But what is we must not lose sight of is the fact that if we don't address the flooding issues here, we won't be able to use prime real estate to develop for the benefit of Hereford and Herefordshire. So this is a really positive news story. It's been like this for far too long, and we're finally making key steps forward in making sure that we can really use the land in that part of Herefordshire. So that's really positive. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now on item 5, which is the Ross Enterprise Park. Councillor Driscoll. And Councillor Stark. Yes, I was almost, I'm surprised you were second with your hand up. Councillor Driscoll and then Councillor Stark.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously delighted to see work's going to be commencing hopefully imminently for Ross Enterprise Park. Can the leader give us a cast iron guarantee that access will be created in this year? I'm guessing it's this financial year, because obviously we're keenly aware how sadly some of the capital projects do tend to drag on and not be delivered perhaps as promptly as we would have hoped. Thank you.
Councillor Stark.
Yes, I'd like to echo our thanks to the Cabinet for initiating this project. Just would like to understand how it will be funded going forward, Leader. It's meant to be self-funding after the first 4 sites have been completed, but if that self-funding doesn't come forward, is Cabinet willing to think about further investment over the MTFS period to make sure this enterprise park is finally completed after 21 years? Thank you.
Councillor Harvey. Anybody else? Okay, Councillor Harvey.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like the leader to provide assurance that the issues to do with opening up an access of this important development site relating to the incorrect siting of fibre optic and communications cabling, which our administration was advised would cost in excess of £500,000 to rectify, is actually properly budgeted for and will be taking place as part of getting this site up and operational.
Leader.
Thank you. I mean, the developments are happening at pace, and I will make sure that Councillor O'Driscoll, Councillor Bartram and Councillor Stark are kept up to date with what is happening. It's an extremely important investment for Ross-on-Wye, but it's extremely important investment for Herefordshire, that part of Herefordshire. So it's really positive, but we will make sure you are updated on timelines, because you guys are going to be asked about it when it all kicks off and starts, and when is it going to be finished? And with regard to funding phase 2, I think what's really critical about these things, especially when we've done the investment in Skylon Business Park, it leads to its own momentum, and that will enable us to gain further funding and investment. There will be an opportunity to, when we get receipts of an investment, we'll be able to put that towards phase 2, but that's more longer term planning. But it's great that we're kickstarting a new industrial park in Ross-on-Wye, and that will lead to much more opportunities and jobs in the future. As to the logistical issues about the cabling, that's something I'm not specifically cited on, but I thank Councillor Harvey for raising that issue, because as Councillor O'Driscoll says, when you start these projects, there are always these problems that can arise which lead to delays. So we'll make sure that is not an issue, but we are just in the process of putting a contractor to start the works, and we have been in dialogue with Openreach. So, we will provide a better update later on, but it's all positive news in terms of investment for economic development in Herefordshire.
Thank you. I've got no other questions on that. Would remind members that, of course, under the Leader's Report, you're allowed 3 questions during the whole of the report. The next item is the Hereford Enterprise Zone, the retained business rates. Are there any questions on this? Doesn't seem so. Thank Councillor Fagan.
Thank you. Leader, it's a small question in the grand scheme of sort of economics, but if we're trying to attract developers to the Rotherwest, the enterprise zone at Rotherwest, could we perhaps do something about the litter issues around Rotherwest and a matter of civic pride? But it is actually incredibly disheartening to all residents driving into Rotherwest, the state of litter around the site. So perhaps that could, a short line could be drawn in the additional income from the enterprise zone to actually tackle that. Thank you.
Leader.
I will ask officers to liaise with colleagues who run the Skyline Park to see what the issues are and how they can be addressed. But you know, sometimes it's the little things that are really just as important, especially when it's talking about the prestige of one of our most important industrial areas in Herefordshire.
I've now moved on to page 54, and I'm on agenda item 7, which is the affordable housing. I'd already written your name down, Councillor Proctor. Councillor Woodall. Wait a minute. Councillor Bartlett and Councillor Andrews. Councillor Harvey. Okay, let's deal with the first three first. Councillor Proctor.
With your permission, Chair, I'd like to ask all three of my questions on this point.
Indeed.
The Council assesses that we are currently short of 900 units of social housing for the need that exists in the county today. I asked the Cabinet what they were doing about this at their last meeting, and I was informed that there is a members' working group and we've purchased the John Benn building, neither of which are really an answer to that question. So perhaps the leader could give us more clarity on what tangible plans the Cabinet has to make a real impact on the numbers of social housing in the county. How many more units of social housing will Herefordshire have in May 27 compared to what it had in May 23? And can the leader confirm the Cabinet will bring forward a significant investment in the capital programme in the 26-27 budget to deliver a marked uptick in social housing in line with the motion on affordable housing agreed in December 23?
Councillor Woodall.
Thank you. My question is about the public engagement that's mentioned there. So will the public engagement in October be encouraging or engaging with the visitors and the local supporters of the football ground? I ask on behalf of a Hereford City supporter from Leominster who believes that loss of the large car park next to Edgar Street ground will kill off attendance and the takings of retail businesses who thrive off the large crowds attending the many fixtures.
Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to hear that the Buttercross flats are progressing well, and the original planning decision shows that a Regulation 77 assessment should be made first in relation to the impact on the River Lug catchment area. And given the tight timeline presented here for works through to occupation, can the leader confirm if Herefordshire Council has made or will make a Section 77 appraisal, as 4 new flats will have an effect and probably will need phosphate credits like other developers do? Because I would hate to think that we might have not have followed our own guidelines here in getting these flats ready for occupation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call the leader to answer those 3 and then return to the other 2 questioners.
Thank you very much. Councillor Proctor, you say social housing, we say affordable housing, and affordable housing, we can see the delivery of affordable housing that has been highlighted in my report. We're making real significant steps with regards to John Benn building and the Buttercross as well. The question of how much affordable housing will have been provided between 2023 and 2027 is a figure that we can't tell you because we haven't got to 2027. However, the challenges of delivering housing, the challenges about delivering housing, affordable housing, is a knotty problem. but there is progress being made as it sets out there. With regard to the capital programme and making sure that the council is addressing this further with its own capital, as he well knows, there will be a financial challenge to any future capital programmes moving forward. That's work that we've got to do in the next 3 to 6 months. No, not 3 to 6 months, sorry, 3 months leading up to our budget. I welcome your assurance that the Scrutiny Management Board will play a key role in looking at the capital programme and the revenue budget. So I welcome and look forward to working with him on that. But we have to be realistic about what we can do as a council, given the constraints. And so it will be the usual approach of doing what we can, whilst also making sure that developers can provide affordable housing with us, especially with our quotas in terms of what our core strategy requires of any housing developments. With regard to the public consultation, Councillor Woodall, Merton Meadow is a substantial car park, and any development in future will have an impact on parking provision. So it's part of a wider strategy that we must adopt with regard to making sure that we have sufficient parking provision in Hereford City, and we're working on schemes to make sure that that is seen as a greater whole. Making sure that we get public engagement right is always an art as well as a science, and we will do everything we can to make sure that everyone has their opportunity and has their say. We want improvements in Hereford City, and so we don't want to do anything that will bring about negative outcomes for providing affordable housing. So we will bear all of those matters in mind while still making a commitment to making sure there's enough car parking in the centre of the city. With regard to the Buttergross development, it's the building regulations application. I think that I'm not aware that converting the upper floors will have an impact on the phosphates, so I'm not quite sure what the point is, but we'll just clarify that for you, Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Andrews, Councillor Harvey, and is there anybody else? Councillor Engel. Okay, and then I will move on. So, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm glad to see that work continues to progress well on the Merton Meadow Urban Village programme. As a ward councillor, it would be nice if I was consulted and informed, seeing as the start date is next week. I'm glad also further round of public engagement. This was done at my request because the original engagement was in Maylord Orchards in a little room which was very poorly signposted and where hardly anybody knew it existed. So I understand that the next public engagement will be in Hightown, which is a little bit more obvious for people. And I'm re the car parking. I have been assured on many occasions that there will be no loss of Merton Meadow car parking until a new car park is built elsewhere. The old county bus station behind the old cinema is the site mentioned, and I hope this is still so. The loss of the Merton Meadow car park is a great anxiety to many people who use it regularly, not only the football club, but people who park there on a daily basis. So I would hate to see that is lost before any alternative facility is provided.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. At the last full council meeting in July, I sponsored a notice of motion which was broadly supported, giving officers some assurance that they had our support on pushing back on high housing targets for this county that have been imposed if it's not possible to deliver on those. The update on that notice of motion under agenda item 9 says that recently opened call for sites has been made, and that's the first stage in seeing what land is potentially available for development. And yet nearly 20 ministers and MPs were assured in the leader's recent letter to the Minister for Transport that the new road projects would unlock 14,000 new homes for the county. when will the administration come clean as to which communities it intends to impose huge housing developments upon? Because it clearly has some communities in mind if it's making these sorts of broad statements to ministers.
Councillor Engel.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just remind the leader that this is not just an urban problem, and permission is being given for houses ranging from 500,000 to £1 million in my ward. Virtually nothing for anything that you might remotely call affordable. Can the council please direct their attention to that? Thank you.
Thank you. Leader?
Yes. Councillor Andrews, thank you for your question and for serving your community since 1996. Were they aldermen in those days?
No, but I've thanks to the Boundary Review Commission, I've represented. This is the third different ward I've represented.
Well, I think you deserve some kind of medal. But there we go. I'm reliably informed that you have been consulted by officers. So I don't think it's the case. Well, you might say not, but I don't think it's the case that we haven't consulted you, because there was a time when you weren't consulted, and I complained about that. But perhaps we can sit down and just clarify which officers you have been spoken to, so we can just make sure that they are giving you regular updates on what is going on. As I said in earlier points, it's absolutely vital that we have a strategic approach to car parking provision in the city, because we are a rural county. People rely on their cars, and we need to have adequate car parking, not just for residents in the city, but in the rural areas as well. So it has to go hand in glove with the right strategy there, and we will continue to make sure that that is our focus. With regard to the call for sites, the amount of housing, my letter talking about how many houses are required, we know that we've got to grow. That's a given. And we have to put these houses in the right place with the right infrastructure. And regardless of the housing target, whether it was 27,000 or 30,000 or whatever, if it was less, originally we were chasing a figure of 17,000 before the new government changed the direction. We're in a situation now where we've really got to go back to the drawing board to assess where these houses are going to go, where the right place is for these houses, and that is going to be through a robust and proper local plan process. The call for sites is a really integral part of that process, and that will help us determine where we think the growth can and should happen. But until we work through the process of the local plan over the next couple of years, we're not going to be able to answer various questions, specific questions now. Councillor Engel, you made a point about affordable housing, and it's the old chestnut, isn't it, about what is affordable housing? It's a perennial problem, as I've said earlier on, but especially in the rural areas, affordable housing is an issue, and we will continue to have a strategic approach as to how we will address that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now on the City and Market Town Public Realm Investment at the bottom of page 54. I've got Councillor Woodall, Councillor Williams. Anybody else? Councillor Woodall and Councillor Williams. Then I'll take those two items and refer them to the leader. Councillor Woodall.
Thank you, Chair. This is a welcome investment, which is trusting the market towns to decide on how the money is spent on their infrastructure. And discussions have just begun with town councils. So can we have, due to it being quite late in the year, can we have written confirmation that this money will be carried over to the next year in case of overruns or delays on delivery? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I know it's kind of early to debate this, but it's great to see that we're still putting money into the public realm everywhere, not just Hereford, although it's disadvantaging the order, I guess. But there you go. I'm in.
Thank you. Leader.
Well, I'll answer that question first. Yes, it is great, Councillor Williams. It really is. Investment across Herefordshire. And the answer to Councillor Woodall is yes.
I'm now on page 56, and I'm dealing with the road safety schemes, and in particular the two schemes that have been identified. Are there any questions on those? No. In which case we'll move on then to agenda item 10 on page 56, which is the Wye Valley Natural Landscapes. Councillor Toynbee. Yes, Councillor Toynbee.
Thank you. Yes, it's good to have an update on the Wye Valley Natural Landscapes in this item. And running alongside this, as we know, and above it, is the huge piece of work for our environment, which is putting together our local nature recovery strategy. And this is at a crucial stage, so I'm surprised not to have seen it mentioned in the leader's report. We're behind other parts of the country on this. Steering group meetings are not being shared, which is disappointing, and there are inconsistencies between what's online and the reality of habitats on the ground. I'm sure we'd all like to do what we can to support our officers with this very important work and to encourage landowners in our wards at ward level to engage with it. So my question is, please can we have a briefing or a workshop for all members before the public consultation stage, so that we're all up to date with it and we know how we can best play a role in it. Thank you.
I've got no other questions, Leader.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Toynbee. That's an excellent suggestion, and I'll make sure that happens.
Very well, we now move on to 11, which is the procurement strategy for the Hereford Western Bypass Phase 1. Any questions? I've got none indicated, therefore I will move on to item 12, the phosphate income credits. None indicated. The item 13, the Hereford Suicide Prevention Strategy. I have Councillor Mason, Councillor Tillett and Councillor Stark, and I haven't looked down here yet. Okay. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually wanted to ask a question under the placeholder. So if you'll forgive me just stepping a little back to a question about public rights of way under the subject of place. Is that all right with your grace?
It's not there, is it?
Theme 3 is about place, isn't it?
I was going, to be honest, I was going for the individual items, and I'm conscious of time, and we've got quite a big issue. So can you ask that question directly to the leader outside the chamber?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go to Councillor Tillett then.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of suicide prevention and awareness, I don't think anything has occurred in this county to match last week's extraordinary Baton of Hope event. The event was extraordinarily well attended. For the 150 plus baton carriers, it was moving and intensely emotional as the relay made its way around the city. I joined the city as it crossed into God's own country, known as the South Wye, where it spent about 2.5 hours, predominantly in my own ward, with some really memorable events at the swimming pool, at Hinton Community Centre, at the Kindle Centre, but I don't think anything will match the extraordinary reception given when the whole of St Martin's School lined both sides of Hollybush Walk and cheered the enormous relay into Hinton Community Centre. Wearing my lanyard, I was asked specifically to take the first possible opportunity to thank the council officers who made this such an easy and successful result, specifically from some of the baton carriers. This is the opportunity. I am happy to do so. I invite the leader to join me. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Stark.
At the political group consultation, I did welcome this strategy, but I did ask the team involved to make sure that they used all the data available to them to highlight where those that might be thinking of tragically taking their lives had contact with us or had self-harmed. Under Commitment 3, we do talk about improving data and evidence, but Chair, can you reassure this council that we will use all the data at our disposal, including the data on self-harm, to make sure that we do as much as we can at an earlier stage to provide the support and counselling required for people who might be tragically thinking of taking their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll direct those to the... Councillor Kenyon, did you have a... And I've got no other speakers then. Okay, Councillor Kenyon.
Thank you. This is my third and out. I'd just like to really just remember Jamo Plum, 22. He lost his life. He was a former sailor and a Hereford FC supporter. And from such sad circumstances of that's happened, the football clubs have come together, not just Hereford FC, wherever they've played. Opposition teams have laid out a Jamo 22 shirt. I'd like to commend the football club for what they've done and how they've driven it, because they've also raised huge awareness of what can happen. So I'd just like to say that, and I wouldn't like this moment to pass without remembering him for a moment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring Councillor James in, and then I'll go to the leader and wind this one up.
Thank you, Chairman. I do think, having spoken to Councillor earlier, Toynbee, about the fact that in the documentation to this, I think you said they actually said there were 18 suicides in Herefordshire, or something our own research did. I'm afraid I think that needs to be looked at, because this is a hidden tragedy that doesn't always be known so often. I've had 3 suicides in the last fortnight in my ward. So if that's an indication of the level that throughout the county as a whole, or even a minuscule compared to that, I do think it's very, very difficult, and we can have all the strategies in the world, but how we do something about that, I don't know. How we actually achieve some improvement in this level, I think defies logic. What we can do, and in these cases, 2 were in their 20s, and 1 was 50s.
Indeed. Leader.
Yes, thank you. There's many things I can say in response to all of those really important points that councillors have raised. Thank you to Councillor Tillett for highlighting the fact that it was an amazing event. It really brought home the tragedy that we have with suicide, but it also was a celebration of the courage that those baton bearers had in standing up and wanting to raise awareness on an issue. And I mean, I met one of the initiators of this initiative at the Methodist Hall and was thanking him for all of his hard work. But the very fact that I could give a speech about suicide and praise all of those people who were involved in raising awareness of this issue was a great opportunity. I've given many speeches in my life about many things, but I've never spoken about suicide and the impact it has. And you wouldn't have thought that you could do that, but now you can do that. And in addressing Councillor James's point, the best way of tackling this situation is to talk about it so that people who are feeling desperate can feel that they can talk about this issue, and that there is help out there for people who need to talk about these issues. And we have some very brave people who have gone through that experience. And so given initiatives like that, this is exactly what we need to make sure that we tell people that there is help out there. That's a very key point to make. I was particularly proud about how Herefordshire Council employees had organised the event. It was one of our employees who was on maternity leave, I'm happy to say, who made the bid in the first place. But then the Talk Community team did a brilliant job of bringing all of this together. And so it just goes to show that Herefordshire can really showcase great initiatives and do it justice. But a special thanks to all of those people who participated, and Councillor Tillett is really right to highlight that. With regard to the data, capturing the right data is really important, and Councillor Stark, as a statistician, will say to me constantly that data is a really important thing. But the thing with suicide is one person who's taken their life is not the statistic we want. And so in absolute terms, we must ensure that it doesn't matter the numbers, whether it's 18, whether it's 20, whatever the number, every single one is a tragedy, and we must address it. And the best way we can address it is to raise awareness in the way that we're doing. So thank you for those questions.
Thank you. I understand we were the only part of the West Midlands that actually took the banner of hope, which I think is great commendable. I too was there at the start of the baton, and indeed had the pleasure of talking to the first rally rider, who of course, his husband I knew in Young Farmers and had committed suicide, and also was one of 2 young farmers that I knew that has done this in the last couple of weeks. I'll move on then to agenda item 14, which is the Corporate Peer Challenge. Councillor Hitchener, Councillor Williams, Councillor Davis. Councillor Hitchener.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation number 5 is that partners are very supportive, and the Council can build on this to develop strategic engagement with the voluntary sector and others to help deliver services. I found this quite an interesting recommendation because Grant Thornton, in their review of the accounts, said that the Council has the arrangements we would expect to see in respect of partnership working, but could challenge itself to go further based on the best arrangements we see across the sector. So there are 2 quite different bodies that suggest there is more we can do with partnership working. My concern is that in trying to save £27.3 million in the budget, costs will be taken out of budgets for working, especially with the voluntary sector, as a result of which partnership working will go backward and not forward. Could I have the leader's assurance that he will not underestimate the contribution that the voluntary sector and other partners make to this council, and the essential part that if the council's aspirations are to be satisfied, there should be more and not less support for these partners. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Would the leader agree that it's great to see that we've had ourselves externally held to account and obviously had the great results back? Thank you very much.
And Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to follow Councillor Williams's comments there and say, would the leader agree that we not only demonstrate how good we are as a council, but the entire council, all councillors working together and officers in this achievement? Thank you.
Leader.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, thank you for those comments. The £27 million, £27.3 million forecast funding gap will present a huge challenge to us. And as we've done in the past, but we need to continue to do so, we need to work with our partners, especially the voluntary and community sectors, to make sure that everyone has a combined effort in addressing all of the issues that we need to address and provide all of the services we need to provide. If I've understood Councillor Hitchener correctly, it's a matter of make sure that we don't, for an apeneth of tar, harm the relationship in terms of service provision and the way we commission services, especially in the private sector or the voluntary sector, and we don't want to undermine that working. Absolutely, you're right. I take that point, but it will be a challenging balancing act to get it right. But if the system's working well, and our relationships are working well, then the voluntary sector can do a real huge amount to help us to do all of the things that we need to do. So I hope you will continually remind me of that focus while we're doing the budget setting and think creatively about how we can maintain that relationship with the voluntary sector, but in a way that's cost efficient. I was really pleased about the Corporate Peer Challenge. Let's not forget, it's talking about my administration, but it's also talking about the whole council, where there's a level of political maturity. That's all for 53 of us. That wasn't a Freudian slip about reducing the amount of councillors under the Boundary Commission. No, so yeah. It's a really positive thing, but it's, as Councillor Davis says, it's the whole council. That's reflecting the whole council, the scrutiny process, the audit process, the cabinet, the way we work with services, and it's our staff delivering for us in many different ways. And the take home that I was really, really pleased about, And I said this at the Parish Council Summit the other day, we're a good council striving hard to improve. Governments talk about change, we want change. I don't want change, I want improvement. And we are a council that's been recognised as improving. Haven't got everything right, but we've got lots of things right and lots of things to be proud of. And so we're improving. And I look to all 53 councillors to help us on that journey, continuing there.
Thank you. I'm now on at item 15, Q1 performance report. No questions. Q1 budget report. Councillor Hitchell, I think this must be your third time now, so make it good.
Yes, this is my third, but hopefully you won't be disappointed that I'm taking three shots at it. Thank you. So the report refers to management action being taken to reduce the forecast overspend by £3.3 million. Management action in this case includes taking money out of reserves, which strikes me as being an accounting adjustment with moving money around the accounts, rather than action to reduce costs. I have no problem with the concept, because the council must produce a balanced outturn at the end of the year, which unfortunately has often been required a raid on reserves. But could language be used that is more transparent? Using a term like management action to describe a raid on reserves seems to me to be less transparent than his administration claims to be. Thank you.
I've got no other questions, so I'm going to put that to the leader.
Raid on reserves. Raid on reserves. That sticks in my craw a bit, I have to admit, but your administration, Councillor Hitchener, did quite a lot of raiding of reserves, but I'll draw a line under that point. But the point is, this is planned management action. This is income that the council's had from business rates. This is a strategic approach to dealing with the pressures that we've got. Maybe we can sit down and have a discussion about how it should be presented. But the actual point is, this is planned. It's explicit in Q1. This isn't a rabbit out of the hat right at the last minute to balance the books. This is a strategic approach. I asked personally myself, the 151 officer, to have buffers to deal with the demand of services. And if you compare us to other authorities, and this is not gloating because there are partners and neighbours and cousins, other authorities across the land are facing huge financial challenges, and I'm sure that they would be they would love to be in the situation we're in, even though we've got the mounting challenges that we face. So I don't think I can add anything more to that, but other than to say it's absolutely critical that we manage our finances, balance the books with the right strategies so that we can continue to deliver the services for the residents of Herefordshire.
Item 17, medium-term financial strategy. Item 18, risk management update, Q1. And that takes us to 11:18, which is exactly an hour. You've all timed it very, very well. If there are no other questions on any other elements of the report, in that case, thank you, Leader. That concludes that item. I am now going to propose that we have a break until 11:30, when we will then come back to do the motions in the order that I outlined to you, beginning with the police motion. So we will begin then, and I will allot the remaining time equally to each of the three motions. Very well. Can we have the live stream ended, please? Welcome back, everybody. We now have before us three motions for the debate. The first motion is regarding the protecting community safety in Herefordshire and opposing the cuts to the PCSO's hours. I will now call upon Councillor Owens to introduce your motion, and this will be seconded by Councillor Tillett. Councillor Owens.
Thank you. Chair, fellow councillors and members of the public, this motion asks Herefordshire Council to take a stand against the decision of the West Mercia Police and Crime Commissioner, John Campion, to limit the operational hours of our police community support officers, which means that our PCSOs are no longer on duty after 8 p.m, so that they will not be paid unsociable working hours. This has been presented as a small administrative change in the name of efficiency, but this is a decision that has major consequences for the safety, confidence and well-being of our residents. Police community support officers are the backbone of neighbourhood policing. They're not just a uniform presence on the streets, they are known and trusted faces in our communities. They help to prevent crime, deter antisocial behaviour and provide early intervention when problems arise. They know our residents, our young people, our local businesses and our vulnerable neighbours. They're often the first point of contact for those who need help or advice. In rural areas like ours, where police stations are few and distances are long, PCSOs are frequently the only visible policing presence. It's their visibility that deters crime and provides the reassurance that someone is watching over the community. The decision to limit their working hours, to end them at 8 o'clock, that's precisely the time when their presence is most needed. We all know that antisocial behaviour, vandalism, public order incidents increase during the evening hours. That's not a surprise, it's common sense. The pubs are open, young people are out, and the cover of darkness provides an opportunity for those who want to do harm. So to remove PCSOs from the streets during those crucial hours is not just short-sighted, it is reckless. This decision comes despite the Police and Crime Commissioner raising the police precept by over 5%, a rise of £14 per household. Our residents are paying more for policing, but getting less service in return. That's not efficiency, that's an erosion of trust. People in Herefordshire expect that when they pay more, they get more protection, not fewer community officers on the ground where they're most needed. What's deeply troubling is the way this decision was made. There was no proper consultation with local authorities, parish councils, or with the communities who rely most on PCSOs. Decisions about local policing should not be made in isolation from an office in Worcestershire. They should be made with the involvement of the people who know these communities best, local representatives, parish councils, and residents. This lack of engagement sends completely the wrong message to our communities. It tells them that their concerns don't matter, their voices don't matter, and that their safety is being managed from a spreadsheet rather than from the street. The impact of this decision will be felt across the whole county, from Hereford to our market towns, out to the most rural villages. In the city, we know all too well that issues like antisocial behaviour and minor crime spike in the evening. Without PCSOs present, that means more calls to overstretched response teams and fewer early interventions to stop problems before they escalate. In rural areas, the effect is even more severe. All too often, PCSOs are the only regular presence residents see. They check in on isolated individuals, work with local schools, and provide intelligence to support wider policing operations. Removing that presence in the evening leaves communities exposed and anxious. Public confidence in policing is built on visibility, accessibility, and trust. When residents see PCSOs walking their streets, attending parish meetings, or helping to resolve local disputes, that builds trust. Once trust is lost, it is incredibly hard to rebuild. So we must act now, before these changes undermine the very fabric of community policing that Herefordshire has relied upon for years. The things requested in this motion are reasonable, proportionate steps, and they send a clear message. Herefordshire stands up for its communities and for effective, visible, local policing. John Campion has accused me of trying to score points off a Conservative PPC, but this is not about party politics, it's about people's safety. It's about the pensioner in Ross-on-Wye who feels safer because she sees her local PCSO on the high street. It's about parents in Leominster who want reassurance that their teenager can go out in the evening and come home safe. And it's about small business owners in Hereford who want to know that someone's going to be around if there's a problem after dark. These are real people who are feeling the effects of this decision. They deserve better. Let's send a message to Herefordshire let's send a message that Herefordshire will not quietly accept cost-cutting measures that make our communities less safe. Let's send a message that we believe in strong neighbourhood policing with visible community officers and real engagement with the public. I urge all members to support this motion and to stand up for the people that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tillett, you're seconding the motion, and do you want to speak now or later? Later. Very well. So the debate is now open to the floor. Do I have any indication of speakers? I've got Councillor Proctor, Councillor Baker, Councillor Powell, Councillor Heatherly. I think that's all at this stage, probably. Very well. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support this motion. I have concerns about the impact of these shift changes in the ward that I represent, and it's literally all of our jobs to stand up and represent our communities when changes are made. I thank Councillor Harvey for sharing some data from the PCC office. I've found that very useful. I don't think it really changes the situation as far as I can see. It shows that over some time period which is not made clear, reports of ASB in the evening exceed reports of ASB in the mornings, and that the public think, broadly speaking, West Mercia Police are doing quite a good job, and I strongly agree with that. I have an excellent relationship with my Safe Neighbourhood team. I've found that they are incredibly responsive, even though they're quite thinly stretched. I have found that PCSOs and I can work very closely together. Very recently, we had a situation where I was alerted to concerns about activities in a property, but the residents were scared to talk to the police, so I contacted the neighbourhood policing team. A PCSO went round and spoke to them individually, gathered lots of pieces of intelligence which have been used for enforcement action and have made a real impact. And I recognise that what we're talking about is PCSOs will still be there, they will still be working, but they will just not be working later into the evening. But it is later in the evening when I have issues in my ward which PCSOs are actively now working on. So, for example, I have a park in my ward where there are persistent issues with organised crime-related drug dealing, where there are concerns about exploitation, and PCSOs regularly patrol that, and it's part of a diversionary, activity. In the PCC's response, it highlights that PCSOs have limited powers compared to police officers, and that's absolutely, obviously, the case. And there should not be getting into a debate between PCSOs and police officers. They're both vital. But one strength of PCSOs is their limited powers, is the fact that they are actually, their strength is their embeddedness in the community, the fact that they know the local people who are running across the garages in behind College Green, and they're not going to reach quickly for enforcement, but instead are going to negotiate and de-escalate. So I support this motion simply because when I see a change that is being made that I think will have a negative impact on my community, I think it's exactly my job to stand up for that and ask the PCC to think again in this case. I just note one other thing that all right, I won't.
Well done, you're very disciplined. I've got Councillor Baker, Councillor Powell, and then Councillor Pemberley. Pemberley. Now I remember. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was surprised to learn that PCSOs are actually paid antisocial working after 8 o'clock. Warranted police officers don't get those luxuries. But anyway, our big problem, I think, when we attend, as we all do, we attend parish council meetings, police officers are permanent or regular invitees. Now, when most parish councils don't start their meetings till 7:30, the chances of getting a PCSO to come along is going to be negative. They just won't be there. They'll finish their time. They've got to travel back to their base and book off for 8 o'clock. And so we're not going to find these officers coming along to our parish council meetings. It's very rare to see a PC coming along. It's usually a PCSO. I think an effective way of reducing the costs of policing in our county is to reduce the number of senior officers. They're not generally productive and they're highly paid. So reduce a couple of those. That will probably solve the problem. But a bit radical, but there we go. Thank you.
I'm sure that the Chief Constable hasn't got this bug, so you'll be fine. Councillor Powell.
Thank you. I'd just like to invite Councillor Owens to think about the content of the motion, because I don't want to split hairs, but there is a misunderstanding with the way in which this is worded. The Chief Constable has absolutely rightly has operational independence to deploy, in this case, his resources. During the year, it was identified, as with many public sector organisations, that West Mercia Police faced some financial challenges. The Chief Constable offered some operationally independent decisions which had impact on the budget for the Police and Crime Commissioner. So these are decisions made by the Chief Constable. I do acknowledge the Police and Crime Commissioner sets the budget. It is really, really important. In my view, I did 32 years as a police officer. The last 2 were as the only policing commander in Herefordshire, just for Councillor Baker's information. In fact, I was on patrol one night during the nighttime economy, and a member of the public came and asked me who I was, and I explained I was the superintendent, and he said, "How many superintendents have you got in Herefordshire?" And my colleague said, no, this is him. He happened to be a Metropolitan Police officer. He assumed we'd have, clearly, many superintendents, so not the case. Back to the point. PCSOs, absolutely, I agree with the points that have been made. They are part of the fabric of communities, part of a really important element of policing. What I don't agree with in the motion is that this poses a serious risk to public safety. The comment has been made and supported by Councillor Proctor that PCSOs are, in effect, they are the friendly face, they're the engaging face of policing, and it is probably right that they don't have more powers than they do. They can impact on safety, but this does not present a critical risk, and I will explain why. There will be a significant proportion of intelligence-led proactive policing by warranted officers. The kind of incidents which take place, in my experience, between 8 in the evening and 10 in the evening are better responded to by warranted officers with powers. There will also be proactive covert investigations that go on in certain places. Councillor Proctor referenced combating serious and organised crime. That is an example of that. The police service and the probation service also are responsible and conduct offender management. What I do agree with in this motion is that we ought to be writing to central government and raising with them the importance of financially making sure that police forces are able to police a rural environment such as ours effectively and at all times of the day. But I would invite Councillor Owens just to consider amending the motion with regard to the difference between the decision-making responsibility.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Perrody and then the leader.
Thank you, Chair. I have one misgiving about this motion, and that's the apparent lack of consultation with other bodies just to get the motion in the right place to win sort of cross-party support. It seems that the police weren't consulted, and they've since put out a statement that seems to me to be quite reasonably counters a lot of the arguments and concerns that are raised in this motion. But not only them, not even our own council representative on the Police and Crime Board was asked for any information about how this motion might be sort of worded. So that's my main concern. I agree with the principle of it. I'm really concerned about the lack of consultation and collaboration, and I understand there's some inaccuracies in the statements as well, which the police have responded to, and I think those should be considered. I've got the details of that, but I know a lot of people are aware of the police response to this motion, so I won't go through them. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got the leader and then Councillor James. Now, is there anybody? And then Councillor Harvey and the Vice Chair and Councillor O'Driscoll. Thank you. Leader.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Owen for bringing this motion to the Council, because what it really does is it highlights the value that we place on the policing service and the value we place on PCSOs, especially with regard to giving the community confidence that there's a police presence there that's tackling with the knotty issues that we need to address for all of the reasons that have been highlighted by previous speakers. The part of the motion I do really have an issue with is in the point that Councillor Powell has said. The request, in my view, should be to the police themselves with operational control over the allocation of resources, so that they can look at changing this decision rather than because it's an operational policing matter. So I would, I echo Councillor Powell's point about editing the motion so it's directed at the right person responsible for making the decision. But what I really like is the bit about where it's requesting the Leader of the Council to raise this issue in Parliament with the help of our MPs, because again, Herefordshire has funding challenges because of the rurality of its county. 840 square miles of that the police have got to cover in our county to make sure that we're protected and safe and feel safe in communities. And again, it's one of those issues, and we'll be talking about it in the motion in terms of supporting rural transport in the next motion. Government needs to give support to rural communities to make sure that they've got the services and the service provision that they need. So happy to support this motion if it can be slightly altered so that we direct it to the right person. But I thank the fact that we are able to talk about policing and the virtues of the PCSOs and the role that they play for Herefordshire.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Owens, you can address that in your final speech, if that's fine. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. I served on the Police Authority for 8 or 9 years, and it was a positive experience in as much as it was a non-political body. In fact, everyone was represented in virtually that was, and we worked for the benefit of the community. The problem I've got is, and I have to say to Councillor Baker, I don't exactly agree with him, but I know what he's referring to. Not the superintendents, it's other ranks, perhaps, slightly lower down the scale than the but the one saving we could make is to abolish the post of commissioners throughout the country as a whole. Since the beginning of the introduction of police commissioners, it has not helped a jot as far as crime is concerned and community safety is concerned. A recent access to information has informed us that since the beginning of the police commissioners, well over £100 million has been spent on administering the police commissioners, which would have employed over 2,200 PSOs during that period. The office of police commissioner is a complete waste of money. The public know it, and surely politicians should know that.
Thank you, Councillor James. I've got Councillor Harvey and indicating to speak now. Councillor Harvey, Councillor O'Driscoll, and Councillor Hitchener, Councillor Durkin, and then I probably will move to our second, and Councillor Harcombe, and then I'll move probably to the seconder and the proposer. Very well. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. As one of Herefordshire Council's representatives on the Police and Crime Panel, I would have been happy to have talked to members of the Liberal group, or indeed any members who are concerned about policing and where the resources are being put, and to represent your views on in the panel meetings. And I leave that as an open offer, and I'm sure Councillor Durkin is similarly happy to receive concerns. The crime panel itself was hugely supportive of and continues to be of the role that PCSOs play in the mix of policing services, and expressed concern during the budgeting process in the spring of this year as to the changes that were being proposed by the Police and Crime Commissioner. However, we would not be expecting the police to be telling us how we dealt with our £27.3 million hole opening up in our finances, or dealing with our in-year overspends. And they are best placed to make decisions about balancing their resources to meet the risks and threats that are understood as far as the force area is concerned. £5.4 million of in-year efficiencies were already part of the budget that was proposed by the Police and Crime Commissioner ahead of the end of the last financial year for this year. And on top of that, there was a £6.5 million overspend on his budget, which completely gobbled up all of the reserves that West Mercia have. And on top of that, we're now told that there's an £8.5 million in-year hole in this year's finances, which are needing to be addressed. I can understand community concern about the lack of visibility in terms of the visible policing and Bobby on the beat that PCSOs represent. However, as a member of the panel, I can tell you that what you really need to be concerned about are the cuts that are happening behind the scenes. Since the summer, over 300 civilian staff have had their jobs axed in West Mercia, and those civilians were delivering support to warranted officers, handling a lot of detailed paperwork, and providing significant intelligence in terms of digital policing, cybercrime, and other ways in which 21st century policing is being delivered. And this is where I think we should be concerned and worried about the impact that that savings cut and are going to need to be made. Assurance and evidence as far as outcomes are concerned is what we need to be concentrating on, and getting assurance this afternoon from the PCC and from the Chief Constable in terms of the delivering the right outcomes for our residents, however it is operationally they choose to deploy their resources.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to start by reading a sentence. A visible police presence is fundamental to residents feeling safe in their community. Adjustment in PCSO shift patterns to finish by 8 p.m. will negatively impact community safety and could erode public confidence in local policing. That's from an open letter that was sent out this week by the Chief Execs of Telford and Wrekin Council, Redditch Borough Council and Shropshire Council. We're kind of late to this party. You know, the rest of the region is already acknowledged that this has been a bad decision. And I think the fact that John Campion has doubled down so much this week, some of the language and rhetoric he's used against this motion really feels like he's aware that perhaps this isn't the best decision. It feels like a football manager that's lost the dressing room, if I'm honest. That's what it feels like at the moment, because up and down the whole region, people are rebelling against that. I'm sitting here today representing the people of Ross, the residents of Ross, and what I'm hearing from people in Ross is there weren't enough police anyway. We weren't seeing the PCSOs anyway, and what we're now having to ask to do is beg for what was already an understaffed, under-resourced service to go back to what it was. So I just really hope they will listen to all the councils across the region and reconsider this. I hear what Councillor Harvey's saying about the other cuts that are happening in the background. That just really makes the issue even more important, because those hours when the PCOs aren't going to be there, the other staff that are going to be under a lot more pressure because of those additional cuts. So I hope everybody will support this motion, and I hope we can send a clear message that Herefordshire really wants to keep PCSOs across the county. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Hitchener, Councillor Durkin, Councillor Hurcombe, and then I'll go to Councillor Tillett.
Thank you, Chair. My ward is Stony Street. It's a rural area. I think the communication of this particular decision has been appalling. The parish councils kind of heard about it. They were told it was being done to them. The one presence which they get from the police is the person who turns up every now and again to the meeting. But as regards visibility in the whole area is concerned, we just don't see any police anyway, which I think is to the point just made. Of course, one positive consequence might be that because PCSOs can't come to our meetings, then we might actually get a warrant officer attending the meetings, and perhaps that's the role of us as parish councillors, county councillors, to get that to happen. Do I honestly think this is going to make a difference, this change? Well, I've yet to see the evidence. I mean, we've had a message from the Police and Crime Commissioner defending it and indicating that crime later in the day is reduced. I guess those figures need a bit more interrogation. But the overall point is we want visibility from police at all times. And whether that's done by PCSOs or warrant officers, I'm not sure it matters, but addressing the whole issue, as Councillor O'Driscoll has mentioned, is very relevant and important. Thank you.
Councillor Durkin.
Thank you, Chairman. I am the Chairman of the Police and Crime Panel, and I just want to make a few comments rather than ask a question as such. I thank Councillor Harvey for a brief explanation of the issues that have been the background to this. And all this happened in July this year, so it's in year. I endorse the comments made by Councillor Powell as to the direction of decision making. Operational. Operational policy is not the Commissioner's decision, it's the Chief Constable. With regard to the budget, the Chief Constable prepares the budget and he gives it to the Police and Crime Panel to have a look at and then endorse it, which we did in February. I am willing, as Councillor Harvey is, to talk to anybody in this council about issues relating to policing. Any councillor come to me. If they want to bring the concerns of their constituents, again, bring them to me or to Councillor Harvey. We are there to listen, to take up your cudgel, as you would say, at the panel. And I echo Councillor Peabody approach. I attempt to operate it in an apolitical manner, because we are all different political parties, but we are looking to look after the people of West Mercia. We are not there scoring points off each other. We want to make it as best as we can for those people who rely on the police for their services. So the operational decision, it must be categorised, is in the responsibility of the Chief Constable. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Hurcombe.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I just want to start by paying tribute to Steph, Emma and Gareth and the Leominster Safer Neighbourhoods team, because they've been phenomenal in the time that I've been a councillor. They've turned up to the meetings where required, they've done engagement with the community, and they made a real difference. And I think what's been lost here is there's actually real people who are working less hours who may choose to leave the police force or cease to be a PCSO as a result. So I think we have to bear that in mind. I think, Councillor Owens, your motion becomes better if it's amended to focus on the Chief Constable, given the factual detail we've heard today, and I wonder whether you might consider amending it to call on the Chief Constable to reconsider his decision rather than the PCC. I think that would be a factual reflection, if that's possible. I don't know what the procedure would be for that, Chair, but I gather from other councillors who've made the same observation that might elicit more support to the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hurcombe. Councillor Tillett.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just remind Council that the Commissioner endorses these changes. He has also called this motion uninformed. So let me give him some information on real stories from members of his workforce, the very people that Councillor Hercombe has just referred to. I first became aware of these proposed changes earlier in the year when, out of the blue, I received an email from the spouse of a PCSO who was off sick with stress. The spouse said this was caused entirely due to the proposed changes, which had left their partner feeling depressed, unvalued, and a fear that they would be unable to do their job properly, including responding to evening calls and attending parish council meetings. I then had a conversation with another PCSO with more than a decade of service to her local community. They were going to be unable to fulfil the new work shift patterns due to shared childcare responsibilities and had no alternative but to reduce their hours. This left them with a drastically reduced income and so currently are looking to leave the force and work in a local supermarket where pay and working hours were more favourable and would return them to their previous pay level. I asked another PCSO about the much referenced consultations. They, along with most of their colleagues, had taken part in the first round of consultations. However, along came the second round, where they found that not one single concern or representation had been addressed. And therefore, unsurprisingly, in the second round, they hadn't bothered. As they said, what's the point when our concerns are being totally ignored? And then only last week, slightly unfairly, given it was a public meeting, I asked another PCSO about how the changes are going. Understandably, they were a little diplomatic, but were very open that there is a great deal of unhappiness and unrest in the workforce, and they didn't disagree with the suggestion that experienced local officers are being lost, and where they're being replaced by much cheaper, inexperienced new officers. The Police Commissioner calls this motion the very worst of local politics. Wrong, wrong, wrong. This is us doing our very core role, representing the concerns of local residents, of communities, neighbourhoods and parish councils. As we've heard, other councils across West Mercia have already protested. Let us not left behind, let us join them. And I would urge members to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call upon Councillor Owens to sum up the debate and address the request that's been made to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There seems to be quite a lot of enthusiasm from members to put this on to the Chief Constable rather than the PPC. But as far as I'm concerned, the buck stops with the PPC. I'd be willing to include Richard Cooper into that in addition, but I certainly wouldn't switch it from the one. Perhaps both, but not just him. I think I agree with Councillor Durkin that really what we want here is what's best for our residents. And I'm not sure that consulting with our police representatives would have made a lot of difference to the final motion, considering how little consultation there was from the PPC or the Chief Constable. I don't think it would have changed the outcome, which is really just calling for some simple actions to show that we oppose this decision, which I believe is the wrong decision. And obviously money is short in public services, but I think that's why it needs to be spent very carefully and where it's most needed. I believe PCSO hours in the evenings should not be limited in this way. I had a very good PCSO who's now gone to work for another police authority as a result of this decision. That's a huge loss to my community. And I know, speaking to another PCSO, that they have to go and do their paperwork at 7 so that they can finish at 8. That means that in real terms, our PCSOs are off the street at 7 o'clock in the evening. So, yeah, I just think we need to take a stand against that. And that's why I ask members to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owens. And can I...
Oh, sorry, can I ask for a named vote, please, Chair?
Okay. Can I have enough indications of name vote?
I'm not sure what we're voting on.
Yeah, well, I was just going to clarify that, Councillor Durkin. Put your hands up again. Yes, I'm quite convinced I got enough. Yes, we got enough. Right. Can we just be clear, Councillor Owens, with you, that what you're prepared to do is to include the Chief Constable's name along with the Police and Crime Commissioner together? Agree? So that's a, so that, for want of a better phrase, so the comment is made to... Yeah, so the comment is made about the both of them in the roles they have. So I hope is that clear? Councillor Hercombe.
I think the other point was that when it says the Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner for West Mercia has proposed, it was a factual inaccuracy that we were seeking to correct, that it's actually the Chief Constable who's proposed that as an operational decision. And I think that reflects Councillor Powell's point.
And my understanding is that this will now include both of them. All right, so what you're voting on is the criticism not just of the Police and Crime Commissioner, but also the Chief Constable as well. So the responsibility is divided between the two.
Chair, the number one needs correcting.
Yeah, well, we will correct. 1, 2 and 3 will be corrected. I think Councillor Owens implied that, actually.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that's included.
It's... My understanding is to vote now for this motion is understanding that the decision is taken by the two main gentlemen. Okay, right.
Chair.
Councillor James.
Look, the power exists for the Commissioner. If he didn't approve of it and support it, he could sack the Chief Constable. That's the one power he's got. So semantics, you know, are just trying to hide the fact.
Councillor Proctor, and then I'll move.
Could I suggest a piece of wording that might satisfy everybody, which is in item 1, the decision of the Chief Constable, which has been supported by the Police and Crime Commissioner, because he has
I'd agree with that.
supported that decision.
Yeah, I'm getting. Did we get that? We've got that.
That's fine.
They're just going to just amend that to type that, and then we'll move to the named vote. And I shall begin with Councillor Andrews today.
Thank
Well,
you.
Councillor Woodall knows what happens when that happens.
Chairman, I'll take the recorded vote if people could indicate whether they are for, against or abstaining.
Point of order, sorry. Item 1 isn't the language that I just suggested currently. So the language I suggested, which I think members were supportive of, was formally oppose the decision of the Chief Constable, which was supported by the PCC.
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
We'll
make sure that's
typing that up.
Clearly put in.
No, exactly. We're going to wait to see it. So, I'm trying to do a Radio 2 link while we wait for the officer to type. If necessary, I may cut to Councillor Tillett to give us a song, but we may. Hopefully, we won't reach that stage.
Simmons, that's it. I know it. Every time. It could be Zebedee. Oh, he never does that. Right, yeah. Yeah, I know. Don't worry. It'll be fine. Councillors, please, are you happy with what's in front of you?
Supported. And supported. By which was what Councillor Proctor said.
Okay, so
if we put supported by in, does everybody know? Councillor Price, what?
Yeah, Chairman, this is making a complete mockery of having motions, because
if we do not have exactly what we're voting on, and then we're asked to have
You're going to have it now.
Yes, I know, but have to be a named vote. We've got to get it right.
Correct.
Absolutely
And that's what we'll do.
right.
That's
And
what we'll do.
It's making a bit of a mockery of the whole thing about motions, to be honest.
We'll wait for that supported by to be put in, and then we'll do a named vote beginning at A. And afterwards, we then move on to the child-friendly Herefordshire debate. Agreed. Yes.
Yeah, we can remove that.
Yep.
That's fine. Yeah.
Take it
Yes.
as read as that in the third
Yes,
line.
we'll
the
remove the
and.
word "and" clearly on the third line of number 1.
Right.
Are we happy to go to the vote now?
Yes.
Okay, so as I say, if you could indicate for, against or abstain. Councillor Andrews. Councillor Baker. Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Biggs. Councillor Bolter. Councillor Carwaldine. Councillor Cole. Councillor Corthwaite. Councillor Claire Davis. Councillor Dave Davis. Councillor Durkin. Councillor Engel. Councillor Fagan. Councillor Foxton. Councillor Gandy. Councillor Gennard. Councillor Hamblin. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Heathfield. Councillor Hitchner. Councillor Hercombe. Councillor James. Councillor Kenyon.
He's gone.
Councillor Lester. Councillor Mason. Councillor O'Driscoll. Councillor Oliver. Councillor Owens. Councillor Pebbody. Councillor Phillips. Councillor Dan Powell. Councillor Ivan Powell. Councillor Price. Councillor Proctor. Councillor Simmons. Councillor Spencer. Councillor Stark. Councillor Stoddart. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Thomas. Councillor Tillett. Councillor Toynbee. Councillor Tully. Councillor Rob Williams. Councillor Woodall. That's completely for everybody.
That's unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next motion.
Point of order, Chairman. Point of order. Yeah.
Yes.
I know everybody ran out of patience, but that resolution that we've just passed still doesn't make contextual sense in paragraph 2. And I think that illustrates the fact that what we do when we amend these time and time again in a meeting is problematic. That second paragraph does not make sense. It doesn't matter to the resolution.
No.
But it is a real shame that we can't get this stuff right.
And I would remind you all that if you have ideas of amendments, they were supposed to be in by 9:30 this morning. Let's move on to motion 2, which is the child-friendly Herefordshire, and I call upon Councillor Fagin to propose and Councillor Proctor to second. Councillor Fagin.
Thank you. One of the many surprising things about being a parent is how the years have slipped slowly and then fast through my fingers. I have learned that the best time to do most things is right now. I often look back and wonder if I could have done things differently, shaped my children's lives in a different way. Did I do the very best for the generation after me? Is one of the questions that troubles me. I wonder how it will be for them in the future, not far away, how their resilience will be tested. Did I lay enough of a foundation to keep them steady through the winds of change? As a corporate parent and someone with some responsibility for how we shape the future of our children's lives in Herefordshire, their home, I realise there is no better time for us to join together and agree that we want Herefordshire to be the very best place where a child can live and grow and love. I believe that by passing this motion now, we can sow the seeds for a movement of all partners across the county. All partners. Goodness knows, even our local media might join in. What does child-friendly Herefordshire involve? It is a concept that has been talked around in the improvement journey in Herefordshire, and when I asked the Director of Children's Services what it might look like, she replied, whatever we shaped it to look like. Let's look to Leeds, our improvement partner, for much of our tumultuous journey over the past few years. Leeds asked what it is like to be a child and grow up in the city. The answer to that was to create a partnership of public, private and third sector organisations, over 600 child-friendly Leeds ambassadors. Ambassadors support in a range of different ways, from sponsoring awards, events and providing leisure and sporting opportunities for children looked after and care leavers, and offering supported internships for young people with special educational needs and disabilities. With this support, Leeds has been able to improve outcomes for children, young people and families throughout. We can dream of making Herefordshire the best place for children to grow up, but we need to ensure that we put the mechanisms in place for that to happen. And while we may have ideas of what that looks like, we need children and young people to have a strong voice, and we need to make sure that they are able to hear that we are able to hear that voice and give it power. We cannot change the whole wider world our children are being born into, but we can do everything we can to ensure that here in Herefordshire, we do the very best to ensure that they have a strong voice, they grow up resilient, loved and loving in their Herefordshire home, of which they are proud and they help to forge. We have been on a difficult and painful journey in Herefordshire, but we are turning the corner. The Herefordshire Council plan states that we want children to have the best start in life. Let's take that to the highest level possible. Every child and young person in Herefordshire deserves to be safe, loved, heard and supported to reach their full potential. Let us all commit to making that happen, and let us formally join the growing family of child-friendly communities in the UK, Leeds and Coventry among others, and those around the world who are preparing for a resilient and empowered next generation. Colleagues, I ask you to support this motion and request a formal adoption of child-friendly Herefordshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Proctor, you're seconding. Do you want to speak now or later?
Later, please.
Okay. Have I got anyone else who wants to speak on this motion? Councillor Davis and Councillor Harvey and Councillor Powell and Councillor Stark. Okay, let's go with Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. This is a great initiative and reinforces our council plan under the people section on how we should be acting. I think it is key that our scrutiny committees and cabinet consider children and young people in all our future plans, which will reinforce child-friendly Herefordshire. Thank you.
You, Councillor Harvey?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm thoroughly supportive of this this motion. On the subject of proposing amendments, I hesitate, but could I offer a proposal that on item 4 of the resolution proposed, that we add the word all between the words where and children? So to ask the leader to report annually to council on progress towards making Herefordshire a county where all children and young people thrive. I think it would be easy to provide examples where some children thrive, but what we need to do is to be aspiring to all children.
Thank you. Councillor Powell.
Thank you. I do support this fully. We've been working towards child-friendly Herefordshire for quite some time now. Councillor Fagan and I and others went to Coventry to learn from their experience, and Councillor Fagan continues to talk to Leeds. So I think it's really, really important that it comes here and is formally adopted by everybody. And just to go back to the previous debate for 1 second, the point about partnership contribution to this, and the Corporate Parenting Board was mentioned earlier. 2 very active members of the Corporate Parenting Board are West Mercia Police and the Youth Justice Service. And I can tell you from my experience, that's actually quite unique, quite different. So some partners are already signing up to this and working on this. And I thought it was important, obviously, given the previous debate, to mention West Mercia Police. So fully supportive of it, and thanks for bringing it, Councillor Fagan.
Councillor Stark.
Yes, I support the motion, but I wonder what the reality of it is on the ground when we talk about child-friendly Herefordshire. If Councillor Bartram was here, he would point out that in this council we have decimated youth services over several years now. The first motion that Councillor Owens brought forward talked about ASB, and part of the causes of ASB are bored youngsters who have no alternative but to hang about on the streets or in the play parks. So yes, let's support this motion, but I want to find out exactly what we're going to do about restoring youth services across this county, because that is a key element if you want to actually make this a reality. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've got nobody else indicated. Councillor Hitchener, and then the leader, and then I will then go to the seconder. Councillor Hitchener.
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to endorse what Councillor Stark has just been saying, that the children's service has been decimated, local children being supported and services. I was approached last week about a particular issue with lack of support for children in a particular area, which quite surprised me. And so as we've got this resolution, it seemed very appropriate. And I just wondered to whom should I go to explain this particular issue? It concerns one of our partners. So who in the council looks at this? It's not looked after children, it's children generally. You know, if we wanted to have more meat on the bone of this resolution, we might put some sort of reporting mechanism in place, but I'm not suggesting that. I think it should stay as it is. But if anybody would be able to give me guidance as to which officers in the council I should approach, I'd appreciate that, either from the leader or one of the other cabinet or the other council members. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call upon the leader, and then I'll move to Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much. It's Councillor Powell that you should raise the issue with, Councillor Hitchener. And Councillor Powell is the Cabinet Member for Children. It's all children. It's not just the children in our care. It's all children in Herefordshire. So just to make that abundantly clear, and you know, we are focused on helping education providers because it's the education of all children. It's the whole lot. There are children who come into our care and they get our special attention and support, but it's children across the board. With regard to youth services, when Councillor Fagan, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Powell and I, with officers, went to Coventry, what they were telling us is that it is making Herefordshire, well, making Coventry, what they did, a great, you know, a place for children where they felt safe and protected. And some of the good examples they gave were instances where, I won't name the facility, but it was a well-known restaurant chain, and it's making sure that their staff know that their restaurant chain facility could be a safe place for a child who hasn't got their mobile phones not charged up, or you know, they're waiting to be collected by somebody, their parent or their guardian or whatnot. And it's just to make the awareness that all of the organisations in Herefordshire, every single one, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a church, whether it's a community facility, is the feeling that if we're focused on promoting and protecting our children, all of our facilities have got to be child friendly and accommodating. And it's just to raise that general awareness that even if it's a restaurant chain or it's a library or whatever the institution is, the building is, or the facility, it's child friendly and focused on the fact that these areas can be places where they can thrive and be protected and feel safe. So it's not about opening children's centres. It's not about trying to have youth services. It's about making sure that all of society is doing their bit to protect our children and make them feel safe and make them feel welcome wherever they are. So yes, looking after children in terms of financial commitments, that's one challenge, but let's not lose sight of the wider point here. This is making all of society more welcome for children, and that's the key point about making Herefordshire the right place for children. And that was the ethos that Coventry told us that works really well, because a lot of these organisations haven't been asked, so we need to start asking them to help us make Herefordshire child friendly.
Thank you. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you. One aspect of this that I'm especially pleased to support is just regularising the fact that the executive has been talking about child-friendly Herefordshire, and I was sure that members would be supportive of it, but it hadn't appeared in any sort of didn't appear in that language in the council plan, and so I think this will be useful just in kind of in setting a framework of this is what we mean, assuming that members support it. If you will indulge me, I'll tell a short story. 20 years ago, I was a manager in local government in Shropshire, and in those days, the police used to have quarterly meetings called pact meetings, where the community would come together and set priorities. And in Wem, for 3 quarters running, the top priority was children cycling on pavements. And so on the 4th quarter, we brought along the youth club. And after that, the top priority was dangerous driving, forcing people to feel unsafe on the road and cycle on the pavements. And that is, I think, at the heart of why this is important, but also why it is actually hard to bring the voices of children and young people into services. Those children in Wem did not have a vote. And so we can't just pass this motion and then think that we've done the job. Like it is actually hard work to think about children and young people in your services, to listen to children and young people in your services. Children and young people often need a lot of support in order to be able to articulate their priorities, so you can't just sort of rock up to a place where there are a load of children, ask them some questions and think that is... and there are good initiatives out there. The City Council has had a youth council for many years. I know Ledbury has been doing some work on in a similar area. I know Herefordshire is talking about a youth cabinet, and I strongly support that. But this has to go much further than that, and I think we should see this very much as a marathon, not a sprint. And so I hope that members will support this. I think it's a really important initiative, but I hope they will support it in the knowledge that it's not just supporting this motion and going away. It's supporting this motion and then constantly working in scrutiny, in cabinet, to ensure that we are making better our services around children and young people. And finally, I just pick up on it's not about youth services, but youth services are incredibly important, and I'm sure we need to do more in this county to promote that. Again, it's not that we have no youth services; it's generally being provided by the parish tier, and perhaps the county can be doing more to add value in that space. Anyway, I'm very happy to be asked to second this motion. Very happy to second this motion, and I hope all members will support it.
Thank you. I'll now move back to the proposal motion to sum up the debate, Councillor Fagan, and also that slight amendment of the all in the section 4. Thank you, Councillor Fagan.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm very happy to insert all so that Herefordshire is a county where all children and young people thrive, as suggested by Councillor Harvey. Thank you to members for the support. I don't think I need to do much more in summing up. I think we've made it very clear. You know, hopefully in the vote, members will support the formal adoption of this policy, and then the hard work begins, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fagan. Are you all? I'm going to move now to the vote. I presume that you're happy with just putting your hands up. So the motion is there before you with that amendment, as you see highlighted in yellow. All those in favour, please show. I think that's unanimous. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Then let's move on to our final motion, which is motion 3. Which is on the improving access to employment, education and leisure for young people aged 16 to 19 through bus provision. I'll call upon Councillor Tully to propose this and Councillor Simmons to second. Councillor Tully.
No, sorry, not Councillor Simmons to second.
Who's seconding?
Councillor Engel.
Councillor Engel. I'm sorry, that was not.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so Councillor Engel, you will second. So, Councillor Tully.
Thank you, Chair. So this motion aims to build on excellent existing work to increase access to transport and opportunity in Herefordshire and to support a child-friendly Herefordshire, which is just happened. We've got the upcoming extension of the concessionary bus pass for disabled residents to use before 9:30 a.m, requested by Herefordshire MenCat back in March at full council and becoming a reality this November. Thank you. We have the Task and Finish group on bus and community provision due to report in June 2026. And for young people, a youth employment hub is focused on ensuring young people have every chance to be in education, employment or training. Avoiding NEET is obviously absolutely critical. Transport consistently comes up as a major barrier for young people, as highlighted in a recent Youth Voice report. Right now, I am living through a phase many of you will probably recognise. I'm a part-time taxi driver for my daughter. Every trip I make isn't just a journey. It means she can take part in community musicals, she can babysit, she can meet friends, she can compete in netball tournaments, activities that contribute to her well-being, build health outcomes and support the local economy. That's not how I talk about it to her while we're driving. But that is what's at stake. And I am lucky. We have a car. Over 10% of households in Herefordshire don't. I work flexibly. I know of at least one resident in my ward who's had to curtail her own nursing training in order to manage transport for her college-age daughter. There are very few spaces that my daughter can go without cost as well. It's interesting that restaurant chains were mentioned. However welcoming, they still take money, and it's still very difficult for young people to be anywhere without cost. A potential 3,000 16 to 19 Herefordians could benefit from the current transport assistance scheme. Only 333 currently use it. While some, including me and my daughter, don't live close enough to public transport, many others do have access to existing bus routes that are underused and could serve them well. Extending access through this scheme to evenings, weekends and holidays for work and well-being has proven potential to reduce social isolation, improve health outcomes and strengthen our local economy. This motion presents a real opportunity to work with our 9 partners on commitments made through the Bus Service Improvement Plan. Together, sharing the cost, we can build take-up of the existing scheme and support young residents to live more independently. Importantly, this aligns with both the National Bus Strategy and our locally agreed ambitions to grow bus patronage. I urge this council to support the motion, recognising that targeted investment in young people's transport access is a smart, cost-effective way to deliver long-term social and economic benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Engel, you're seconding the motion. Do you want to speak now or later in the debate?
I was going to speak later, but I might get gazumped again, so I think I'd better do it now.
No, you do it now. That'll be lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A little historical context first. Along with a number of my colleagues around these tables, I belong to the luckiest generation in history. No one was forced to go to war. There was steadily increasing prosperity. Many of us had free access to university. We lived through the sexual revolution. And if we then bought a house, we increased our wealth exponentially through dumb luck. As teenagers, before we had cars, we had cheap and plentiful buses, even in rural areas. And then, to top all that, as we got older, the coup de grace, a bus pass. Free travel over the entire country, if you want to. Except that most often we don't need it, because we can still drive. Consider then the plight of a modern 16-year-old heading off to sixth form college, one of the most successful institutions in the county. And it applies to the students at the tech and art colleges just as well. They can get a bus pass, all right, for only slightly over £1,000 a year, the same subscription as the average West End club. But you can't come to use it to come and go as you please, as you can in a club. We have bred a generation of Cinderellas who turn into pumpkins when the clock strikes 6. What's the point of a college without a social life? And I'm told by reliable sources that the transport is unreliable. The bus from Ross, I was informed, is a particular hopeless mess, regularly passing students at bus stops. And the response from the bus company has been to make it worse after half term by using one bus on the route rather than two. That's what I hear. This filters down the education system as well. The buses from Lewis Harrold to the Comprehensive in Kingston are consistently very late in both the morning and the evening. And that can't be traffic jams. 16 to 21-year-olds in rural Powys can now travel for £1 on all single journeys. Meanwhile, in places like London and Manchester and Nottingham, many teenagers and many older than that don't bother learning to drive because they have modern transport systems. I'm not suggesting this is possible here. But I do remember a teacher at the sixth form college who said, "We're educating people to go to university and they very rarely come back." If it has to be like that, can we just let them have happy memories of their youth and not just waiting on filthy mornings for the world's most expensive buses that don't even arrive? I urge you to support this motion and what's more, get it done.
Thank you, Councillor Engel. I've got Councillor Thomas, Councillor Andrews, Councillor Stoddard, Pebbody, Stark, Mason. I'll stop there, otherwise I'll run out. So Councillor Thomas and then Councillor Andrews. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. We haven't got a working microphone. Sorry. As a member of the Task and Finish group that's going to look into this bus thing, I think we've got a bit of a dilemma here because most of these young people we're talking about, their parents pay already 1,000 plus 1,100, whatever it is, to get transport, which is only available just in just the time that they're going to school and going home. We're trying to encourage child friendly. We're trying to encourage people to take part in after school clubs and other sporting things. The bus companies are actually paid, or assuming that we hand over all that money that we get from their parents, they're actually paid to transport them. The fact that it may be out of hours is irrespective. They've factored in the fact that they are going to move those children or young people twice a day. So therefore, I think we've been a bit soft on our bus companies, possibly. And I think, obviously the Task and Finish will get into the minutiae of this, but I most certainly support this motion because I feel exactly that. And the final thing on it is that if you get young people into their idea that they can use and have regular transport now, they may continue into real life, which will cut out the car transports, car movements, etc., etc. So yes, I fully support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I've got Councillor Andrews, Councillor Stoddard, Councillor Pemberley, then Councillor Stark, Councillor Mason, Councillor Harvey. Have I missed anybody? Oh, sorry. You know what? It's late in the day now. It's late in the day now. And I've got the leader, and then I'll probably bring that. And when all those have spoken, I will then go back to the proposer. So, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. This is a very worthy motion indeed, but I think it's preempting what has already been mentioned, the Task and Finish group, which is looking to all bus services and provisions within the county. And I really think this motion should be however worthy it is, put to one side until the Task and Finish group, of which I am a member, has completed its work and comes forward with the recommendations. But it's very worthy, and I know that many of the MenCap people will be delighted to see this provision, but I just feel it's preempting the Task and Finish group's work and recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Stoddard.
Thank you, Chair. I cannot help but comment on the irony of Councillor Tully bringing this motion to Council today as we face the most significant and existential financial challenge due to the potential impact of the Labour government's unfair funding review and a potential £27.3 million funding gap. It is regrettable that the previous Green Independent administration, during their 4 years where they pilfered and squandered more than £50 million of our reserves on economic incompetence and green vanity projects, but did not feel it important enough to add this initiative to their budget at that time. This administration seeks to do the best for all of the residents of Herefordshire and are making every effort to inform central government of the challenges of rurality. Herefordshire is the third most rural county in England, including highlighting to them why, as part of the relative needs assessment, they have limited home-to-school transport to a distance of 20 miles, whereas in Herefordshire, a great many of our journeys are significantly in excess of this. My Cabinet colleague on my right, Councillor Price, has asked officers to investigate this issue a number of months ago, including contacting central government to ask for additional funding support. And thus, whilst we await the response from officers and we grapple with the financial challenges that we face, I would like to inform Council that this initiative will form part of our considerations as we work together to produce a balanced budget for 26-27. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pemberley.
Rhymes with Zebedee.
Yes. Pemberley. Debrezi.
I'm pleased to be working alongside a dedicated group of councillors taking a close look at our county's bus services through the Task and Finish group and aiming to make recommendations for improvement by June next year. We expect to find opportunities for improvement, what with devolution and new technologies, but also a pressing need for more sustainable transport with the climate and cost of living crises. Any recommendations from the Task and Finish group will require finding new sources of funding. The Council is already forecasting a £762,000 overspend on subsidised bus routes this year, and next year could be even more difficult. But perhaps the greater challenge is not finding the money, it's finding the people to actually use our improved services. That's why this motion is really important right now, to incentivise and develop our bus usership. At the Rural Services Network conference, we heard how crucial incentives are in encouraging bus use. That's hardly surprising when buses are up against a £1 billion car industry relentlessly pushing private vehicle ownership. And that's why we need to start this work now. If passed, this would help us gather the data, and we've heard how important that is needed to support future funding bids. More importantly, it could help drive a shift towards bus travel now, giving any improvements a better chance of success by 2027-28. Thank you.
Councillor Stark.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking as Chair of the ESSC on this matter, and I've had an exchange of emails with a number of councillors, including the Councillor Peabody. My concern here, though I know the Council will probably support this motion, is it takes it outside the Task and Finish group study on bus provision, which does worry me. That Task and Finish group will hopefully look at bus ticketing across the county. It will look at concession bus schemes across the county. How many of us have had older people come to us and say they'd like to travel before 9:30? I could declare an interest here and say I'd be quite happy to travel to full council on my bus pass before 9:30. So it's a worthy motion, but I just feel it's taken out of context. It's pushing this to a higher priority, and I just would like the proposer to consider perhaps deferring the motion and to have it put to the Task and Finish group so that they can then decide in the general context of ticketing and concession passes generally, where this fits in priorities in terms of recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mason.
I welcome focus on this. It's an issue I've lobbied on previously, and we've already heard how the Cabinet members are looking at it. I'm, like others have said, I'm delighted to be part of the Scrutiny Task and Finish group looking at it, building on very encouraging noises that were heard by those who attended the bus summit, which touched on a lot of this. In particular, while we are discussing this here, I want to represent what is said to me by many local residents who are understandably upset. If you look at our website, it says, "We recommend investigating your route to college as the cost of pay-as-you-go or buy multiple journey tickets may be less than the amount we charge if you're not travelling every day. The 16 to 17 rail card enables the purchase of rail tickets at a 50% discounted rate. The point is, we need to recognise that the scheme we have at the moment, in which an annual fee provides free travel but at considerable cost, is probably no longer suitable for the hybrid world we inhabit, and all of this has obviously changed hugely since COVID. This is complex, and while I welcome the sentiments behind the motion, it is a complex issue, which, as Councillor Stark has noted, is already in hand."
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, and a lot of good points made in the debate so far. My daughter was fortunate enough when she was having to travel backwards and forwards to school on a bus service to be riding one of the bus services between Ledbury and Lugwardine, run by the wonderfully eccentric and much missed David Morris of DRM Bus, a larger-than-life character who was a huge champion of bus services and bus travel. And one of the lovely things that he did, and I'm not sure whether this has been carried on since his passing, but one of the things that he did, which she benefited from, was because she had a school bus pass, he allowed children with the bus passes for his services to ride on the buses weekends and in the evenings at no further charge. Now, that was hugely helpful to her in being able to attend after-school clubs and take part in social activities at weekends. And as a consequence of that, she's a real friend of the bus and is very happy to hop on and off them now that she's living down in the southeast and carrying on with her life. We do commission bus routes where we have lots of empty seats. The peak travel times for bus services, often our children, despite paying lots of money for their bus passes, have to stand all the way to and from their school journeys. But at other times there are lots of empty seats, and it would be lovely if other bus service providers would be prepared to do what David did and help to grow habits of bus use for the next generation. It seems to me that in the proposal that we have before us, there's enough latitude in the paragraphs in the sub-resolution 2 to give the Task and Finish group latitude to flesh out options to propose to the administration, whilst being confident, if they're going to deliver their results in the summer next year, that an element of budget provision is already there to be able to implement proposals that have been made. So I don't have a huge problem with the way that the resolution's currently being set out before us, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. The Leader.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate really the point I made earlier about the fact that this is a problem about resourcing of rural authorities, and there's much more transport provision in concentrated population areas which we don't benefit from, and so it is. And I really welcome the third part of the motion, which is to write to the Secretary of State for Transport to say that we really need support for such schemes. The one thing I would just highlight, though, is that the funding gap that we're facing, that we need to address, is going to be a huge challenge. So whilst I think the sentiments of this motion is laudable, and we really need to look into this further to see if this can be a reality, I just put the note of caution that the challenges in terms of funding for lots of services in Herefordshire for Herefordshire Council is going to be really difficult, and please therefore bear that in mind when we work through these ideas in future.
Thank you. Councillor Simmons, and then I will go back to Councillor Tilley.
Thank you, Chair. I really welcome some of the comments made in the debates here and agree with almost all of them. As a group, we are fully aware of the financial implications. That is why we have sat and worked on getting data and information from the finance officer and team and from the transport team. And we are trying to give as much latitude to officers, but we also need to send a strong signal to the operators and support for our officers that young people in this county outside of statutory provision are consistently disadvantaged compared to other groups in the county. We have just passed the motion on support for a young person and child-friendly Herefordshire. This, as Councillor Stark and Hitchener asked for, is what are we going to do about it? Well, this is a really clear example of where we're saying we want to do a pilot. That's all we're asking at the moment, a pilot, to see what would be the uptake and what would be the costs. We are being financially prudent in trying to understand that data, and that's why it's important that it runs at the same time as the Task and Finish group, to be enabled to give that information to you, to provide you the understanding of how you then want to go forward with your recommendations. This is in tandem, it's not instead of, and it's not prejudging the outcomes. I just want to make that very clear. That's all we're asking, is to send a signal to our young people, to our partners, that they matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tully.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm delighted that my first motion to council has been described as both worthy and laudable. We've covered reliability, increasing use and clear, obvious need builds our case with partners to improve reliability. We've covered the example of neighbouring counties and changing behaviour through good value transport, the potential of working in a stronger partnership with our bus companies. I'm very proud to be on the Task and Finish group for the bus transport. Again, another first for me, and I'm enjoying the possibilities of this way of working. It certainly seems really exciting. It won't report until June 2026. The financial possibilities can, and I'm sure will, be brought to the Task and Finish and will be very useful in that process too. Existential financial challenges have been cited. Existential challenges demand bold partnerships and efficient working. And I believe that this is something that could do both. I'm delighted that Councillor Stoddart has noted that this is going to be part of next year's workings. And I know that I've been enrolled for just under a year, so I couldn't have brought this in another administration in any way. A reminder that the motion aims to explore the possibility of a financially prudent investment coupled with innovative partnership working alongside our 9 local bus companies, the possibility of a financially prudent investment, and that this possibility could benefit a number of Herefordshire's young people. Thank you.
Very well. We'll now put this motion. Councillor Harvey. Hands up, anyone who wants a name vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we've got 8. Okay, there's the motion there before you. We'll have a name vote. We'll begin at W. That'll keep you all on your toes.
Thank you, Chair. If, again, you could indicate whether you're for, against, or you abstain for the motion. Councillor Andrews.
No.
Oh.
W.
Oh, we're starting at the
Yes.
bottom. Okay, apologies. Oh.
W.
W. Okay, so I'll start again. Councillor Woodall.
For.
Councillor Rob Williams. Councillor Tully. Councillor Toynbee. Councillor Tillett. Councillor Thomas. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Stoddard. Councillor Stark. Councillor Spencer. Councillor Simmons. Councillor Proctor. Councillor Price. Councillor Ivan Powell. Councillor Dan Powell. Councillor Phillips. Councillor Pebbody. Councillor Owens. Councillor Oliver. Councillor O'Driscoll. Councillor Mason. Councillor Lester. Councillor James. Councillor Hercombe. Councillor Hitchner. Councillor Heathfield. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Hamblin. Councillor Jennard. Councillor Gandy. Councillor Foxton. Councillor Fagan. Councillor Engel. Councillor Durkin. Councillor Dave Davis. Councillor Claire Davis. Councillor Cornthwaite. Councillor Cole. Councillor Carwardine. Councillor Bolter. Councillor Biggs. Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Baker. And finally, Councillor Andrews. Everybody was for and two abstentions.
2 abstentions, otherwise everyone's for, if that's recorded. We'll move on then to agenda item 10, which is to confirm the dates of the full council meetings for the municipal year of 2026-27. Are you agreed? Thank you very much, and I would like to thank members of the public and councillors for their attendance at the meetings today. The next scheduled meeting of council will be on Friday, the 5th of December at 10 o'clock. The meeting is now closed. I